Welcome back to the live show of our Digital Africa Business Days. On behalf of the Netherlands African Business Council and the government of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and all our partners, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency RVO, our knowledge partner TNO, and the organization that jointly drafted the African strategy of the Dutch private sector, VNO, NCW, NL in Business, FMO, DSCP, and PUM. Throughout the day already, you have had the chance to vote, to cast your vote for the Doing Business in Africa Award. And in just 1 hour, we are going to find out who the lucky winner is of this award. Is it Trading Organic, Yielder, or Afriwise? We will find out soon. But first, let's listen to more inspiring speakers who will share their insights and views about today's topic. How do Europe and Africa move forward together? Our first guest for this afternoon program is Joost Oorthuizen. He's the designated CEO of Invest International, an organization currently being set up. And we're very happy that he's joining us via Zoom. A warm welcome to you, Joost Oorthuizen. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi. How are you doing, Marina? Thanks for having me.
I'm fine, thank you. It's great to have you here this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just mentioned, I introduced you as a designated CEO of Invest International. You will tell us more about this new set organization. And yesterday there was a meeting in the parliament to discuss the role of Invest International. Could you please share some insights about that meeting?
Sure, yeah. So yesterday there is a law to be passed in parliament to make Invest International possible as a new Dutch financial institution to serve Dutch interests and abroad and the SDGs. And I was very pleased with the discussion yesterday led by Minister Kaag and with the parliamentarians. And there seems to be a lot of support for Invest International, but the parliament will vote later this week on this new institution. And that's the lower house, and then of course after Christmas, if voted positively, it will go to the upper house. Oh. So we should know within a month or maybe 6 weeks where we are.
Okay, and talking about Invest International, could you tell us why Invest International was set up and what the focus will be?
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, most people in the Dutch listeners, they have heard about Invest NL. So and this is kind of the international brother of Invest NL. The purpose is that the Netherlands is a trading nation, right? So a lot of our wealth is earned outside our borders, and we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of business solutions for the rest of the world. And Invest International is set up specifically to help Dutch companies overseas in those markets where risks are a bit higher, where projects still need to be developed and are perhaps not fully ready for financing. That's what we will do. We will help those companies to operate, develop projects and finance projects in the more risky markets, so the emerging economies, if you like. And obviously Africa is a big part of that.
And talking about Africa and how important is Africa going to be for your portfolio, and where do you see investment opportunities for Dutch companies over there?
Sure. So Africa is going to be very important for Invest International. If you look at the trade volumes of the Netherlands with the rest of the world, Africa is not the highest, if you like, right? It's more China and Asia. But in terms of added value, what we can do in terms of additionality as Invest International to the market, Africa is the number one because business risks are highest on the continent. And obviously there is also a lot of business opportunities. And we're not just about business, we're also about the SDGs. So trying to solve, to help poverty, to feed the cities, to work on health, work on infrastructure. So there's also big SDG goals with Invest International. And of course, the sweet spot for SDGs and business interest, a lot of that will be in Africa. And
it sounds like Invest International is going to be, will revolutionize the way of doing investment in Africa. And how, what will be done differently? Because of course, I mentioned during my introduction the Netherlands Enterprise Agency that already support Dutch companies that want to do business in Africa, among other markets. What will Invest International do differently to really make sure that Dutch companies are doing business and investing in a sustainable way in Africa? Right.
Well, we will work very closely together with the Dutch Enterprise Agency and with others. So it's not we're going to do it alone. But what we will do differently is that it is all under one roof now. So both finance, subsidies, project development facilities, it's all under that umbrella of Invest International. And it will have quite a lot of means to make that happen. There's 850 million or close to 850 million of fresh capital from the Ministry of Finance. Mm-hmm. And then there is existing rulings from which is now under the Dutch Enterprise Agency, in total something like 1.5 billion. So it's quite a big facility with a for purpose and a very focused group of people to help companies in project development and finance.
And talking about focused regions in Africa, which countries are you looking at, or which regions specifically?
Yeah, Africa is a big place, huh?
Yeah.
We always treat it as a country, but actually it's a very, very big place for, as you know, very, very well. I would be in favor of following the Africa strategy, which was just developed, which talks about top 3, top 5, and another. So focusing on those countries where trade relations are strongest already. So then you're looking at countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, I guess Ivory Coast. So a number of the bigger countries I think we will focus on, but it will have a regional focus as well. So typically, we are open for business in every region, but I think we want to prioritize those top countries as identified in the strategy.
And how can African companies benefit from Invest International services?
Sure, yeah. So African countries companies are often a business partner to Dutch companies. They are often part of a value chain that leads somehow to the Netherlands, either through imports or exports. So as it needs to serve Dutch interest, but Dutch interest can often go through African companies. So I talk to many Dutch companies and they say, well, it's our African company partners that need most of the support. So they would love to see us also focus on those African companies in service of that bigger value chain.
All right. And during these Digital Africa Business Days, we are trying to answer a question, a big one. How can Europe and Africa move forward together? What's your take on this one?
Well, it's so obvious that Africa is our closest neighbor, if you like, right? And there is huge business opportunities coming up. There are huge SDG challenges to be met. So it makes perfect sense for the Netherlands as a country that is good in trade, that has many solutions. But it is also strategically linked to the African continent that we work very closely together, right? So SDG 17 is about collaboration, and I tend to believe that the Netherlands is good in collaboration, right? And collaborating with Africa on for the prosperity of Africa, but also for the trade links between the Netherlands and Africa, is super important, and we really hope that we can make a difference there.
Thank you very much, Joost. Thank you for sharing your insights. It was great to have you here this afternoon. I wish you all the best, and hopefully you will be announced firmly as the CEO of Invest International. Thank you very much, Joost.
Super, thank you.
Now we continue the program with our next speaker, Kwasi Boaheme. He's the Director, West Africa, as well the Director for Advocacy at Pharmaccess. Good afternoon, Kwasi.
Good afternoon, Marina.
Great to have you joining us via Zoom. Could you give us, to start with a brief overview of the activities of Pharmaccess in Africa?
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Marina, for having me. And maybe before I get into the activities of Pharmaccess, let me just give you a short context so that the participants will appreciate what we're doing and the challenges that we face. And the fact is that, Africa has only 17% of the world population, but it has 23% of the global disease burden, and only 2% of the global investments are happening in Africa. If you look at the whole continent, about just under 6% of the people have access to insurance. So people are paying out of their pockets for health, meaning that, people become poorer when they get ill because they cannot afford care. So this is the context where we are operating. And at Pharmaccess, we're working on health insurance and making sure that people will be able to afford healthcare. What we've also seen is that even in places where there is health insurance, people are not going for the insurance because the quality of care is not there. So we're working also, with both public and private sector to improve the quality of care. And we've developed our own approach called Safe Care for that. What is also important, and I think particularly for this interaction, is that you need capital in order to improve upon your business. Hospital, clinic, primary care center, pharmacy shop, or whatever. So within Pharmaccess, we have also set up the Medical Credit Fund, which provides business training, but also loans to entrepreneurs who are, operating in the healthcare space. And as I speak now, the Medical Credit Fund has been able to disburse over $100 million, in loans. And we do this in countries as Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, Kenya, Liberia. So I think this is also a podium for people to reach out to us, and we can really work together. I think two other things which I will quickly mention is that, we're doing all these things by using technology. So we're also using technology to improve the delivery of mother and child care, because we see that the quality of that particular aspect of care is not optimal. And lastly, we are linked with researchers both in Amsterdam and in African countries where we work to do research, to improve the work that we do, but also assess the impact and the successful interventions that we do, collaborate with the private sector to scale. So this is what we do at Pharmaccess.
And talking about, just to come back about on the use of technology that you mentioned, we also know that your organization believes in the digital world. Was that a benefit during the COVID crisis, or is still in that crisis? How has this?
Yes. So one of the exciting developments in Africa is technology. So we all know how technology has revolutionized the way that people do business. Considerable part of the population which does not have access to bank accounts now through mobile payments can have access to the financial services. So you get to a situation in Africa where and I say this with all the pride that I can muster, that 10% of the transactions in Africa occur through mobile payments, compared to 2% in Europe, including Netherlands. And so you see that on the mobile technology side, Africa is really leapfrogging. So when it comes to COVID in particular, where the question that you asked, we did several things. We collaborated with a Dutch company called Lucy. So Lucy is the company that did the application that is used by the Onsuliva-Frau Huishouden, the application used to monitor symptoms of COVID and manage care. So together with Lucy, we set up a digital service in Ghana, in Kenya, and in Tanzania, and in Nigeria, to inform people about COVID-19, to help them monitor their symptoms, to organize care. And I thought it was very important that, particularly in Ghana, it was, accepted by the government as a service to manage COVID cases for the whole country. What we've also seen in the COVID era is that people are afraid to go to hospital and because of fear of getting infection. So we developed, I mentioned previously about the safe care approach to help hospitals and facilities improve on quality of care. We developed an app which we call Safe Care for COVID, which actually help the healthcare facilities to prepare themselves in this context so that they can, do the proper treatment, that healthcare workers are prepared. And so we call it preparedness for COVID and, control of infections. So it really prepared the hospitals and the facilities and gave confidence to the healthcare workers that they will avoid infection, but also people that, when they go to those hospitals which are using the Safe Care COVID tool, that, they are in a safe environment. And I'm proud to say that over 600 healthcare facilities, across the countries where we work are using that tool. We've also supported in training and testing in Tanzania and Kisumu County in Nairobi.
Great work you're doing there on the continent. One brief last question. As you know, we are trying to answer one question, important one, in terms of the collaboration of Africa and Europe. Africa and Europe, how do we move forward together? What's your take on this, Kwasi?
Yeah, so it's important, and that we both, Africa and Europe move together. The Netherlands, particularly, is a pioneer in health insurance, health financing. It has a strong private sector, presence in the country. Using private instruments to deliver healthcare. And I think that is something that Africa will benefit a lot about, the expertise in there. I previously mentioned the how Africa is leapfrogging on technology, mobile technology. And I think it's also something that will benefit the Netherlands. And so it's a two-way affair. The expertise here, on social infrastructure will help Africa. The technology and how Africa has used it, mobile technology in providing financial inclusion, helping people to do business. I think, those are two key areas that I think, the two continents will benefit. And I think particularly when we talk about COVID, we've seen that there are no boundaries. And so it's important that the two, continents, they come together and support each other to move forward.
Thank you very much, Kwasi. was great having you here. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
We are now joined here by Vanessa Moungar. She's the Director for Gender, Women and Civil Society at the African Development Bank. And she's also a member of the French President's Council for Africa, and where she has also an important task to advise Mr. Emmanuel Macron on all affairs in Africa, together with other thought young African leaders. Welcome, Vanessa Moungar.
Thank you so much, Marina. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you for honoring this invitation. The department under your responsibility at the bank, at the African Development Bank, focuses on gender, women. Can you share with us what the work of the bank when it comes to ensuring that women, and African women in particular, are part of the continent economics transformation?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that question. You know, the role and the mission of the African Development Bank is really to accompany the socio-economic transformation of our regional member countries, more inclusive growth and more prosperity for African people. And to do that, we need to profoundly ensure that we provide access, equal access to opportunities for all Africans, men and women. That is the only way to leverage our biggest asset, which is our human capital, to accelerate Africa's transformation. So it makes common sense to look at gender issues specifically because of existing entrenched inequalities that right now prevent women and girls from fully participating in the inclusive growth that we want to see. Because we know that when women earn a revenue, they reinvest about 90% of it in the nutrition, the health, and the education of their family. And that's magnified impact for the entire community. So it's pretty much the best return on investment you can get. And so we need to make sure that any investments we make across the continent every year fully takes into account women and girls' needs so they can fully participate. And we unlock the bottlenecks that right now prevent them to accessing productive resources, whether it's access to information, education, health services, but also finance and markets. So we can really, truly tap into that entrepreneurial power. And that's what we're trying to do with our flagship program, the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa, which the Netherlands and the G7 are proud supporters of. Thank you very much.
And you just mentioned the importance for women to have access to markets, to finance. How do you see a role for European partners, for instance, in that sense or in another way?
Well, the world is interconnected. So at the end of the day, prosperity somewhere until there's prosperity everywhere can never be forever. So that's why global cooperation is more important than ever. And if Europe and other regions of the world want to support Africa's growth and economic transformation, the best way to do it is to support African solutions to African challenges and to work hand in hand with African stakeholders from the public and private sector in solving this country or region-specific challenges. And I think that's the global collaboration and cooperation that we need to continue to enhance to ensure that prosperity, as I said, somewhere can be prosperity everywhere. We've seen it with COVID-19. Nobody's safe until everybody's safe. We're all interconnected. So everyone's prosperity is in the interest of all.
Thank you, Vanessa Moungar. And one last question, and the overriding question for these Digital Africa Business Days: how do we move forward together? And I think if there is a person I should ask this question, is definitely you, because you really represent a bridge. You're like a bridge builder between both worlds, where you are active on the African continent, also, active assisting European countries. I just mentioned when introducing you that you sit on the Presidential Council for Africa of Emmanuel Macron. What is your take for this question? How do we move forwards together, Africa and Europe?
Well, I love the word bridge that you used. It's all about building bridges everywhere. You know, we're all responsible for the future in common that we share. And relationships, particularly geopolitical relationships around the world, evolve all the time. Paradigms shift constantly. And while we keep focusing on old ones, new ones are emerging with different parts of the world. So Europe and Africa have a long history in common. And that relationship needs to continue to evolve, to grow, and to evolve like all other relationships into one that is mutually beneficial, that creates value for all involved, particularly for people in both regions. So the question at the center for me is, how do we ensure global cooperation in the interest of everybody, every citizen on Earth, with nations that do their job and of course protect their interests first, but also support the resilience of others. We want to see more accountability and transparency from all partners. And as I said before, you know, the crisis showed that we're all interconnected. So whether it's about public health, climate, global security, we have a world in common and a future in common that we need to safeguard, so we actually can leave a world to our children that is a little bit better than the one we found.
I like that last sentence, to work hard to leave a world better than the one that we have lived in for our children. Thank you very much, Vanessa and Moungar. It was great to have you here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Marina.
We are now joined here by the following two speakers. Tommie Hooft van Huysduunen, CEO of Proteen, and by Maarten, Commercial Director at Carepay. And both of you are active in East Africa, but managed to join us here in the studio. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let me start with you, Maarten. Can you explain a little bit about what Carepay does?
Sure. At Carepay, we are a technology company. We are actually a Kenyan-Dutch company, and I on purpose say Kenyan because we started in Kenya in 2015, and we built software which is used by the three major stakeholders in the healthcare supply chain, so the insurers, the providers, the healthcare clinics, and the individual, the members. And we have built a platform which connects not only data and exchanges data between those stakeholders, but also allows for payment, both coming in and paying out. So in premium collection, for example, digital money flows, but also outgoing payments towards clinics. And that's in a nutshell what we do. We're now with 189 people, spread over 3 offices, Kenya, Nigeria, and the Netherlands.
And how many people are using this platform?
If you look at the users, it's again those 3 major stakeholders. So we have connected our software in more than 3,000 clinics. We work actually a lot with Pharmaccess, where Kwasi is working for. And that's a wide variety of types of clinics, from pharmacies to small clinics up country, high-end hospitals. Then we connect insurers, both public and private insurers. Those are our main clients, and they actually together reach roughly 4.75 million individuals who are also connected through their mobile phone to our platform.
And how has COVID affected your business model? Has it increased the needs of such a platform?
I would say it has affected it in both ways, so both negatively. To, for example, connect clinics, you have to go out there. We have to connect clinics to our software. We have to train them. We have to onboard them. That is obviously very difficult if you're not able to travel. If it's not allowed to travel, maybe due to lockdown, or just not safe to travel because of people are being afraid. So operationally, we had massive challenges. Also, growing the business, maybe entering other markets. It's not easy if you can't travel. You just need to still get to know the people, get to know the environment. Technology will not solve it all. So in that sense, we are negatively impacted. However, from a more holistic, strategic point of view, we are definitely positively impacted because our platform connects the clinics and the insurance and the members into one ecosystem. And that creates lots of digital healthcare data and payment data. And the famous dashboards, for example, where the Dutch government is looking for to track COVID, that's something we can provide in, for example, the Kenyan context, where we see thousands of transactions flowing through the system on a day-to-day basis, and hence the need for such a digital platform, the demand for that is of course growing globally.
So do you think this is the future of payments for healthcare in Africa, and a way also for African countries to collect data of patients in their countries?
Well, also already shared by the other guests today, digital payments in itself is of course a massive growth industry. It's developing rapidly. It's both paying incoming payments, but also outgoing payments. And through the mobile technologies in the telecom industry or the banking industry out there, where, well, Kenya specifically is of course leading by example, we see that could be the future for healthcare payments, but for any type of payment. We hope, of course, that what we offer can be used in other markets, not only on the African continent, maybe even in the Netherlands. Why not? I think our institutions, maybe the tax authority, have quite some issues with paying out, and we are all aware of that. And through automation of those payments, according to a certain set of rules, you can make that much more efficient and reliable, and that's actually already happening in some sectors on the African continent. For example, in healthcare or in telecom.
In which countries are you active at the moment?
We currently have operational activities in Kenya and Nigeria, and to a very limited extent in Tanzania.
Okay. Any plan for expansion?
Well, COVID, if it would allow us to travel a little bit more again and do some investigations, then we would have probably already added a third or fourth country. Now we are cautious, and we still have a lot to do in Kenya and Nigeria, specifically in Nigeria, where we started only 2 years ago. Kenya, we are a bit further ahead, but we definitely like to grow. We like to grow to the neighboring countries. Those are usual suspects for us, Uganda, Tanzania, Ghana, but also looking at potentially other continents. Why not? But definitely on the African continent, we're there to stay.
Thank you very much, Maarten. And to you also, I have to ask, moving forward together, Africa and Europe, how do we do that?
Well, definitely as partners. The sector we are in is healthcare, and in healthcare, it has such an impact on all of us. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor; it has an impact on you. It doesn't matter if you're from the Netherlands or from Kenya; it has an impact on you. And no one can afford his or her own hospital, for example. So in a way, it's always shared. It's always in a partnership model, public, private. And that mix is very interesting and exciting. And if you then zoom in a bit more to the Netherlands, for example, and some of the African countries, then I think we can really work together on the technology part, where some of these technologies are actually ahead in Kenya, for example, and we would love to bring some of that to the Netherlands, instead of always saying from the Netherlands we will export it.
I like that.
To the African continent. Why not turn it around this time? And I think it's possible. Also, Kwasi mentioned already that, and I agree with him. And more from a policy perspective and a social infrastructure perspective, the Netherlands can play its role and can help maybe some of those public or private insurers how to help them to improve and to become more efficient.
Thank you very much, Maarten. Thank you for sharing your insights. Let me now speak to our other guest, Tommie Hooft from Huysduunen, who is usually, as I mentioned earlier, based in Kampala, but you are here in the studio with us. Very welcome
Thank you so much.
You again. Can you tell us about Proteen?
Of course, yeah. Proteen is a waste-to-value company. We make use of a special insect called the black soldier fly, which is becoming very popular amongst the insect industry. And the black soldier fly transforms organic waste into 3 products. So it's feed, which you can compare to fish meal, for example. It's oil, you can compare to fish oil, and the larva poop, which is a organic fertilizer. So it's a very circular system, and we're heavily scaling up now in Kampala. Kampala was chosen also because its need for waste management, rapidly urbanizing city, and we found ourselves there now for about a year and a half, 2 years, and with support from the Dutch Good Growth Fund in the beginning, they really gave us the push to start Proteen.
So you mentioned you work with organic waste and insects. How difficult was it to convince the partners of the usefulness of all of this?
Yeah, so when you mention insects and organic waste, of course, people get a little bit scared. But I would say there's a pioneer, which was Agri-Protein. They started in South Africa. They started in 2009. They really kicked off the industry of black soldier fly. They were the first company to bring this to scale, and they did the hard work, I would say, of bringing this to light. And then you had a Dutch company, Protix, which followed them, and they were really the pioneers in this industry. A very different environment. It's much cooler there. So how we work with the black soldier fly is very different in a country where it's on average 27 degrees. But honestly, the demand for feed is so large, and the problems of waste management and the need for alternative protein are so present that once people get over the fact that it's an insect and they've seen it before a little bit, convincing them was not so difficult. What's difficult now is convincing the customers, the feed mills, to buy it at large enough quantities, and for us to get to a large enough quantity so that they can use it as a replacement for soy, for example, for soybean. That's really where what we're facing now as an industry.
And do you see possibilities to replicate this business model in other countries?
For sure. So I would say the business model we're focusing on is not using climate control, right? So the black soldier fly thrives between 27 and 32 degrees. As I mentioned, Uganda sits around 27 degrees on average. Perfect temperature, doesn't get too cool at night. In other countries, you can look at anywhere along the equator, right? So in places like Vietnam, Indonesia, they're also really pioneering with this low-tech model or low climate model. But otherwise, France is investing heavily into it. The USA, Netherlands, China, South Africa. So I think within 4 or 5 years, it's going to be standard practice to use this particular insect in animal feed.
And do you have expansions plan? I understand you have now a focus on Uganda, but any expansions plan? And if you will be looking for partners, what kind of partners will that be?
Okay, yeah. So expansion plans, I would say, like you said, first Kampala. If we can tackle Kampala, currently we're processing about 5 tons of organic waste per day. Kampala generates 1,500 tons of organic waste per day. Only 40% of that is collected. So we have a long way to go just to reach Kampala, and then we want to reach the other cities within Uganda. And historically and still now, Uganda exports a lot of its feed mostly to Kenya and neighboring countries. So the first expansion will be grow within Uganda and then export to neighboring countries. From there, it's going to be looking at which city, for example, maybe Goma in the DRC or Kigali in Rwanda, or moving to other neighboring countries. I think we'd like to stay within East Africa for now. And what I think and hope is going to happen is we're going to be partnering with similar type of companies, for example, in Kenya or neighboring, and we can consolidate.
Can you share more about the type of companies you're looking for as partners? Sure.
So an example, we're talking to De Heus, which is a famous family company in the Netherlands. Their export company is called Koudhuis. They are now building a feed mill in Uganda specifically. Currently, they're importing their feeds from Egypt and Vietnam and distributing them in Uganda. Instead of doing so, they're now building their own feed mill, and we could become a component, for example, of their feed mill, and they can integrate into the protein chain, and we can become their protein component. That's something on the upstream side that we can do.
Okay, so first conquer East Africa, and then start looking at other regions, just like Maarten mentioned earlier on.
Exactly.
And Tommie, to you also, I have the question: how do we move forward together, Africa and Europe?
Yeah, so I would say currently we've been relying heavily on working with Wageningen University. My co-founder Philip also did his studies there. So we're talking to particular professors who are in this industry. Wageningen is investing a lot into the research of this industry. So there's already a lot of knowledge exchange. I participated in the summer school for insects for food and feed already. So that's on a knowledge basis. We work also with Makerere University in Kampala, and the partnerships there. We're setting up student exchanges and thesis research. So I'd say that's on the technology side or on the research side. And then there's what you're seeing now in the insect industry is you have machinery fabricators and producers that are building specific machinery for these type of insects, right? So also that's coming in the Netherlands. So we also want to become a company that can use, the best of local machinery in Uganda and the best of Dutch machinery and combine those two to create a competitive advantage. And later on, this is very feasible. We can start exporting our oil and we can use it here in Holland and to make as part of the animal feed and, to feed our salmon and everything else.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tommie. It was
so
great
much.
to have you here in the studio this afternoon. Thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you also, Maarten. We will now speak to Lara van Druten, who is the founder of Waste Transformers, an innovative company that converts organics waste into energy. A very warm welcome, Lara van Druten.
Hey, thanks for having me.
For those of us who don't really understand how the waste transformer that works, could you kindly explain about the technological part of your company?
Sure. So what we do is we process organic waste on site, and we do that in a small-scale anaerobic digester. And that anaerobic digester is composed of 20-foot shipping containers. So we adjust the number of shipping containers based on the amount of organic waste that there is. And that allows us on site to ensure that there's no waste being transported, but really the producer of that waste is getting as much value as possible from the waste. So the way that it works is that the waste is sorted at the source, and then it's tipped into the installation. We have a shredder that gets to work, and that shredder breaks that organic waste down into tiny little pieces. We have weighing scales underneath, so we know exactly how much waste is going in. We have an automatic dilution as well, so that waste is turned into kind of like a brown slurry, as it were. And from there, it's pumped into a digestion tank. And in that tank, there's a lot of bacteria. And that bacteria gets to work, and they essentially eat the waste. And whilst they're eating that waste, a gas is released. And that gas we then capture, we clean it, and we send it to a small combined heat and power unit. And it converts the gas into green energy on the one hand in the form of electricity, and other hand in the form of residual heat. So that electricity which is produced can be used really to power exactly that same building or community or marketplace or hospital that produced the waste to begin with. And the residual heat can be used, for example, for cooling purposes, or alternatively, it can be used for hot water. And then there's more, right? So after that, everything that remains, we then send to a dewatering screw. And we separate the solid and the liquid fractions. And the solid is used as a soil enhancer. And the liquid fraction, we make sure that it's stabilized, that there's no odor in it. And that is a very high quality, nutrient-rich fertilizer, which can then be used once again to grow food. So in that way, we create a small-scale circular economy around something that would otherwise just land up on landfill.
I almost wanted to say the same. It's quite a secular solution that you're offering there. And the company has been around for how long? And I wonder, and also I'm sure the one of the burning question is how you have been able to develop yourself, and if there are some lessons learned so far.
Sure. So we've been around now for, I think, just over 7 years. So we're still young. We kind of the new kids on the block, not quite the teenagers as yet. And but we do have enormous ambitions. So we are active at the moment in the Netherlands, and we've also just started in the Middle East, and we also started in Africa. So we have in South Africa, at a shopping mall, we've placed an installation which processes the waste on site. We've developed a joint partnership with in the form of a joint venture in Freetown, Sierra Leone, with a local partner. And there we have the ambition to create a network of 40 small-scale installations in and around Freetown that will really provide an alternative infrastructure, as it were, a blueprint for the megacities of Africa. So we can show how you can tackle, one, a sanitation problem, and at the same time an energy issue, and then also produce that fertilizer in order to grow new food. As such, we really positioned ourselves in Freetown at that nexus of water, food, and energy. And then, very exciting, we've also just started a project in Ghana, and we have a great project underway in Uganda.
Okay, that's already, I can already see that you are connected to a number of African countries. But how do you plan going further to reach other African countries with this innovative solution?
You know, I think the only way to do it is to partner with the best and the brightest. And because there's no way we can do it on our own. So that means that it really makes a great deal of sense to put as much energy as possible into finding partnerships where there's not just a value in terms of market, but there's also very much an alignment of values, of business values, because you want to work with people who share the values that you have. So our strategy is around, on the one hand, finding those markets, finding those partners, I should say, and on the other hand, of really targeting with almost sort of surgical precision the markets we want to work in and the industries that we think are really going to be valuable for us.
We're here trying to answer a question: how do Africa and Europe work together, and how do they both continents move forwards together? What's your take on that?
Maybe two things I would like to say. Firstly, there's an enormous amount of creativity and entrepreneurship in Africa. And it's a place that bustles and it buzzes. So I think it's all about finding the right kind of entrepreneurship and the right creativity in order to move it further. And on the other hand, there's also what I see very clearly is that in Europe, we've made a couple of decisions which in hindsight are probably not that smart. And specifically, if you look at our current waste management infrastructure, to give you an example, the average garbage bag in Europe travels for 86 kilometers on dirty diesel before it's essentially burnt. Africa doesn't need to make those same mistakes. We really have the potential here to leapfrog, the same as has happened in the mobile telephone industry, to leapfrog over a number of the challenges that we have here in Europe and to create something which is smarter, greener, and much more entrepreneurial and smart.
Thank you very much, Lara. Thank you for joining us today in the studio.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
"2020 will not only go down in the history books as the Corona year, but for Africa also very positive steps have been made when it comes to the further establishment for the African Continental Free Trade Area. Its secretariat has been set up in Ghana, and we are now joined by Dr. Francis Mangeni, Head of Trade Promotions and Programs at the AFCTA Secretariat. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Mangeni.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. To set the scene, could you briefly introduce the vision behind the African Continental Free Trade Area?
The African Continental Free Trade Area creates a single African market for trade in goods and services, and also covers cooperation in the areas of investment, competition, intellectual property, and e-commerce. So that is our vision, to have one single trade regime across the continent.
And what have been the latest updates around the agreement?
So the latest updates are that as of 1st of January 2021, that is within just 15 days, we start trading under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Mm-hmm. That's the latest, the hot news.
Okay. And how does this agreement will be beneficial to the Dutch, in particular, and European entrepreneurs active on the continent?
So this agreement creates a large market for investment. This large market supports critical levels of investment. Africa, or the African Continental Free Trade Area, has a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion US dollars. Together, it's the fifth largest economy in the whole world. We have a population of 1.35 billion consumers. Returns on investment are quite good, 6.5%. Compared to 6% in the developed countries. This is according to estimates by the Overseas Development Institute. And according to estimates by the IMF, despite the COVID pandemic, the African economy next year will grow by 3.1%. So there is a lot of potential for critical levels of investment into Africa now. The regulatory reforms are going to improve the business environment through regulatory reforms that are expected under the African Continental Free Trade Area. So I would like to suggest that Africa is the place to be. It's the happening place. And we welcome European investment. We are open for business.
And Dr. Mangeni, when do you think that we can have a free movement of goods and labor all through Africa?
All right, so we've already started with the free movement of goods. The African Continental Free Trade Area means that there will be free movement of goods. The African Continental Free Trade Area also covers trade in services. We are beginning to have a free movement of trade in services as well. Now, regarding free movement of people, there is, of course, under the services component, the capacity for natural persons to move across borders to supply their services. But we have another instrument called the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons in Africa, which is open for signature and ratification. This one is not yet in force, but it will be in force, we believe, within a year or so. So to answer your question, by the year 2023, that's according to our blueprint, we are supposed to have a full African common market with the 4 freedoms. And therefore, by that year, we expect to have full free movement of not only goods and services, but also of labor and people.
You mentioned earlier the regulatory framework. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? We know that for foreign companies to invest, they need to be. It's important to have and enable environment, the right business climate. Do you think the agreement is going to be a huge step to achieve this, to make Africa an interesting market to invest in for foreign companies, European companies in particular?
Yes, indeed. Yes, very much so. Under, for instance, the Protocol on Trade in Goods, we've got about 9 different areas which cover trade in goods. This include trade facilitation, customs cooperation, transit, health standards, technical standards, non-tariff barriers. So all these agreements or annexes will require regulatory reforms because they have to be implemented. But in addition, as I said, we are going to have services liberalization. This again will require regulatory reforms. For instance, we are starting with 5 priority sectors: communication, financial services, transportation, tourism, and business services, which include professional services. All these sectors will have to require regulatory reforms. But on top of that, we shall move into investment. We shall have a protocol on investment. We shall have a protocol on competition policy, a protocol on intellectual property rights, and a protocol on e-commerce. So all this will require regulatory reforms. And overall, the business environment is going to continuously improve. Ease of doing business is going to continuously improve as governments implement the agreement and therefore do undertake regulatory reforms.
We spoke a lot about the importance of the agreements when it comes to attract foreign investment. And how does this agreement will also benefit African companies? Because they need to be on the driver's seat to drive the continent's economy, right?
Right. Yes, I'm really glad you have asked that question. So what we expect is that African businesses, especially the small to medium enterprises, businesses owned by young Africans and businesses owned by women will have to benefit because the African Continental Free Trade Area must be inclusive. It must benefit the ordinary person, the person on the ground. So the World Bank, for instance, has estimated that if fully implemented, the African Continental Free Trade Area will, by the year 2035, lift about 100 million people, Africans, out of poverty. 30 million living in extreme poverty, and 68 million or thereabouts living in moderate poverty. That's living on less than $5 a day. So it has to be inclusive and assist the ordinary person. But the strategy then is that we must have regional value chains. The African Continental Free Trade Area is not only concerned with markets, creating a large market, it's also concerned with industrialization and also concerned with infrastructure, having enough energy, having surface transport, air transport, and information and communication technology, which enable operation beneficially in the fourth industrial revolution. So through these interventions that help to improve the business environment, we also expect regional value chains to be tapped into so that the small businesses can be linked into the big businesses, both African big businesses and any international big businesses that operate on the continent, so that African companies can also benefit. We want to prioritize made in Africa. That's what the priority is. Thank you.
That's a clear message, Dr. Mangeni. One last question. Africa and Europe, how do we move forward together?
So we move forward together, not only in the area of trade, which we are just talking about, but also in these other areas where human civilization, human existence is threatened, climate change. This is a clear priority for both Europe and Africa, and we have to work together on this. Peace and security, we need to move together on this as well in order to have peace in the world. Everybody needs peace in the world. And then we need not just political stability, but also macroeconomic stability. So we need a stable international global order. I believe that these are areas where both Europe and Africa can work very closely together for the good of humankind as a whole.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mangeni. It was great to have you joining us. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Let's move now to the next item of this live show. One of the most important moments we've been all waiting for, the announcement of the winner of the Doing Business in Africa Award 2020. We have 3 inspiring candidates, Trading Organic, Afriwise, and Yielder. However, one can only be the winner. Can I have the envelope? I think my colleague Ernest is supposed to appear on the screen to give me the golden envelope. And we're going to find out here together who the lucky winner is. Yes, I have it in front of me. And the lucky winner, the winner of the Doing Business in Africa Award 2020 is Afriwise. Unfortunately, we cannot clap because we are here in the studio. And I would just say congratulations to Afriwise. I also want to congratulate Trading Organic and Yielder, because you are also true inspiring companies. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, there can only be one winner. So congratulations to the big winner for these awards, Afriwise. It's a big honor, and I think what are you going to receive as the winner of the Doing Business in Africa Awards is a full page exposure in the NABC magazine 2021, and we are also very happy to have a representative of Afriwise joining us here in the studio, Jean-Michel Trésor, Head of Operations at Afriwise. Congratulations.
Wonderful.
Wow. Can you say a few words?
Yeah, it's really monumental. It's great. A huge honor for us. I'm extremely happy, actually, for my colleagues, all the people that do the work in the dark that puts us in the light today. But mostly, I'm super happy for our contributing partners because Afriwise is truly tapping into the collective knowledge of the top African legal expert. And I'm so happy, so proud to win this award on behalf of them. So, yeah, thank you. I'm really humbled. I'm really happy right now.
Why is this award important to you?
Oh, it's important to us because the whole endeavor of the Afriwise project is pretty much to link everyone that is searching for operating in Africa, that wants to comply with the law, but often don't know how to access the law, who to contact, where to find the law, and even when they find the law, how to understand whether it's really applied as such in practice, to bring all those people in front of the people really doing the work on the ground, that live there, that understand the market, that can give them a clear view of the legal landscape, not only from a legalistic perspective, but also on a practical basis. And that connection, direct connection, as the previous speaker said, collaboration together. What we try to do in Afriwise is bring those both parties together and help them achieve any venture they are undertaking on the African continent. And that's why this is so important for us to get our contributing partners where they should be in front of the Dutch business community, and anyone that seeks to operate in any given African country can just find what it needs to know, what it takes to be operative in those countries. So that's why it's really massive and monumental for us.
Well, once again, congratulations. And
you.
as a winner, you don't only receive this prestigious award, but you also, as mentioned earlier, receive a full-page exposure in our annual NABC magazine, the one that will be published in 2021. So once again, congratulations, and keep on doing the good job. And I think in the moment we're live, I would just ask my colleague to Peter to give me the awards, and I will put it, because we have to do it in a safe way.
No worries. Our hands have been sanitized. Don't worry.
Our hands have been sanitized. So congratulations, Afriwise, the winner of the Doing Business in Africa Awards 2020.
Thank you very much. This is great. This is wonderful.
Well done.
And I'm sure the audience is clapping. Thank you very much. As we are nearly coming to the end of the first day of the Digital Africa Business Days, I would like to invite my next speakers. I'm already joined here at the table by my very own colleague, the Managing Director of NABC, Peter de Ruiter. And we're joined online via Zoom by Tjerk Opmeer, Director of International Programs at the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, RVO. Welcome, Tjerk.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Marina. And I was indeed clapping for everyone. So congratulations with the Doing Business in Africa Award. It's great to see.
Yes. So, Tjerk, we are almost ending this program for the first day. RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, is an important partner for this Digital Africa Business Days, and we're very happy that you could join us. Could you please share with us some highlights of the day and what's the most important topic has been for you?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity of joining via a Zoom meeting. Although I'd rather have been in the studio, but I think it's really great that we, together with you and you with all the partners, have been able to organize this event, which I think is quite difficult in these circumstances to have such a great amount of speakers, people joining in, and have, I think, very interesting discussions. So for us, it's really a little present in these days that we can organize such a thing, although it was quite complicated. But I think we can be proud of everybody joining in. And I think for us, it's also very important to reach a broader public and explain and listen to everybody about what are the questions, what are the opportunities, but also to provide insight in what we can do from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, from RVO, to be of help to different partners. And I think the theme moving forwards together is a great theme, because when we want to reach the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, I think we really need to partner together in many different ways. And I think what has been shown today, also during the different sessions, is that working together is the best way forward. And of course, we know there's a lot of historical famous quotations about working together, moving further than when alone. So I think that's very good, and I think we've seen a lot of examples also during the day. But also when we look to the way we can work together with the NABC, with all the different partners also helping and organizing, that's the way forward. And if we look to certain examples, when we look to, for example, what we can reach on in Morocco on water. We have been doing sector studies and joining forces together with the stakeholders, where we really can be concrete in what we can reach. And I think also what surprised me, or maybe not surprised, but I was happy to hear that also during the session today on scaling SMEs and startups, where examples from Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso were joining in. What often has been said is that finance is the main constraint, and finding finance is very, very difficult. Well, you've been discussing in the start of the session with Joost Oorthuizen, the CEO-elect, so to say, for Invest International, about how to have better opportunities for financing. But financing is not the only thing, because I think, and it was very clear also from the session, it's also about business skills, about mentoring, about knowledge and regulation. And I think that combination really is interesting to move forward, to join forces and to can be of help, to help especially SMEs and small startups to grow. And I think it's very good that it has been put forward by the entrepreneurs themselves, because I think that's a good lesson where we can work together. And also, if we look to the session on female entrepreneurship, I think, well, many of the entrepreneurs in Africa are female, and I think they really can find opportunities in moving from, how can I say, subsistence entrepreneurship to a more stable, future-proof way of organizing and formalizing their business. And I think there the Women Business Center, which is being set up by the UN Women, I think such a one-stop shop is really essential to move further. So I think there's a lot of great opportunities in the way the session has been put forward, different views, different exchanges of view, and I think that's very worthwhile, and I think that helps for the future. And I hope, of course, from the Netherlands Enterprise Agency point of view, that in the near future, in the next year, we can also organize some trade missions and some missions to different countries in a physical way, because, well, these virtual missions are very, very helpful in these days. But in the end, meeting each other, I think, is also very worthwhile. So I would say also for tomorrow, we have an RVO, a Netherlands Enterprise Agency stand, virtual. Please join there, because I think we can be of help, and we try to find the opportunities where we can join forces. So coming back to the theme, together moving forward is the best opportunity. So let's do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tjerk. Thank you very much for sharing your insight of the day. And you just made my job as the host very easy by encouraging again people, the participants, to join tomorrow. It's the first day of the Digital Africa Business Day, but we continue to work tomorrow. Let me now turn to my other speaker, my colleague Peter de Ruiter, Managing Director of the NABC, Netherlands African Business Council. The NABC is the main initiator of the Digital Africa Business Days. Why was it important to organize such a virtual conference?
Thank you, Marina. That's of course the key question in the preparation of this event, this multiple double day digital conference. Why? Because of course we were all shocked at the beginning of the year what was happening in the Netherlands globally with the restrictions on traveling and meeting each other, and not only with traveling but also organizing larger conferences. So we had to look at an alternative. Because the opportunities of Africa and the business chances and the connections that we can make and we need to make are not different than any other time in history. So Africa still has an enormous, strong story to tell. And we as Dutch business community, European business community, if you like, we need to be aware and alert that this is still out there. And what better way to do that by these 2 days in a digital way? It may be not as common as we were used to, big conferences in big rooms, but we also have the experience, as you are well aware of, that by organizing this, it's actually more interesting to have better access, easier to high-profile speakers. So the content of our conference is actually better, you could say. Because we have better and more people to join us. So in many ways, I think we had a story to tell, and the story is told even better.
And you've been following some part of the program. What is your takeaway from this first day?
One takeaway is that, in line with what I just said, is that it is very impressive that we have over 1,000 participants. So that confirms, it proves actually what we know as NABC pretty well, that the appetite and the interest of the Dutch business community is still out there, even probably bigger than we may have expected. Of course, some businesses have slowed down and looked at maybe longer term perspectives. But the appetite for knowledge and information is there. That's, I think, an important takeaway of these days. I think overall, in general, the way we are able to cooperate with such a wide variety of key stakeholders, VNO, NCW, RVO, the Dutch Netherlands Enterprise Agency, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and all the names mentioned. I think also an important takeaway that the private sector is organized now to really embark on a mission to take the Africa strategy to promote African economies in connection with trade and investment more than ever before. I think that's a very important lesson that we've seen proof of today and tomorrow.
And the theme of this Digital Africa Business Days, moving forward together.
That's probably your favorite question.
I love it because I love hearing all the insights and perspectives.
I heard a question a couple of times, of course, today, and I was just thinking about how to address that and to be accurate and to be specific. Words come to mind of last week's presentation of Ursula von der Leyen, the chairperson of the European Commission, and I think her narrative towards Africa is very strong and very convincing. I think she really used almost those words, moving forward together. She talks about and it's very close to our heart as well as NABC, she talks about dealing with Africa as a two-way street. I think we as NABC are very much convinced that the way of doing business together it had to be on an equity level playing field. So we need to treat our African business partners at the same way as we would treat our business partners in Germany or in Belgium, for that matter. So moving forward together, the reference is made to the Africa Free Trade Area. I think it's also a very important step that enables us to look at a huge market with a lot of things to still change and adjust and regularize going forward. But it's about partnership. We very much believe in doing business together, and that's the way forward, going forward.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us also here in the studio. We have now come to the end of this live show program for the first day of the Digital Africa Business Days. Thank you all again for your participation in the Digital Africa Business Days. We have a program that will continue tomorrow. Make sure you tune in at 9 o'clock. We have the various roundtables, all the thematic sessions. We have a 15-15 session open for the NEBC members. But we also have matchmaking meetings planned with Dutch ambassadors in Africa and African ambassadors in the Benelux. Make sure you tune in if you have scheduled a meeting. We would like to thank all our partners. We organize these events in partnership with the government of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, mainly through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, RVO. Our other partners include TNO, our knowledge partner, and the organizations that jointly drafted the Africa strategy of the Dutch private sector, VNO and CW, NL in Business, FMO, DSCP, and PUM. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and make sure you tune in tomorrow. Thank you.